My husband Mark and I started a bakery about a year ago. Our bakery was relatively new, but my famous chocolate eclairs were a sensation. It was on Halloween night. I was bustling in the kitchen preparing my signature dessert as a crowd of customers filled our bakery. Our delivery person had been missing for a few days, so Mark had taken over the deliveries. Around 9 p.m., we received an order from a remote location on the outskirts of the city. I considered canceling, but the customer was a regular. Besides, Mark and I were keen on maintaining our bakery's Google reviews, so he decided to make the delivery. As he set the location on the GPS, he noticed that he had to deliver the order to a deserted area. He felt quite uneasy, but there was no one else at the bakery who could accompany him. It was indeed a bussy Halloween night. As he drove, he began to recognize the area as being on the city's fringe, and he still had 10 minutes to go. He hadn't been that far out, so it definitely unnerved him a bit. Following the directions on the GPS, he turned right onto a long dirt road leading to a spooky old mansion. He parked his car near the mansion and began to unbuckle his seatbelt. As he did, he noticed a gaunt man waving his skeletal hands from the door, beckoning him to come inside. There were no streetlights or anything. It was pitch black. So, for his safety, he kept his headlights on and started to approach the mansion. He was determined to leave the eclairs on the front porch and leave, but then the man kept the door open. He was unsure what to do at that point. He peeked through the door, trying to locate the man. His car's headlights made it easy for him to look around. However, as he tilted his head towards the mansion, he smelt something terrible. He shouldn't have, but he stepped inside the mansion following the smell. To his horror, he saw the man hunched over and devouring raw meat with his bare hands. When the man saw him, he began to stare, and then started to laugh maniacally, with disgusting sticky red blood dripping down from his mouth to his chin. It smelt like a dead body of an animal or a human being. His heart pounded and he sprinted towards his car. He had only just sat in the seat when the man appeared in front of the door. There were visible traces of blood on his clothes, and he didn't look right. As he was reversing the car, the man knelt down to pick up something and began to rush at him. He has no idea how he managed to drive away from that dirt road at a speed of 60. After reaching the highway, he gradually regained his senses. He couldn't believe the things that he had seen. It was 10 p.m. by then, and I, worried about his whereabouts, called him asking where he was. He told me everything, and I strictly asked him to call 911. After sharing the location of the man, he came back home. He had a hard time falling asleep. His mind was filled with thoughts. At around midnight, he got a call from the police station. They had caught the man who was indeed feeding on a dead body of a man that he had murdered a week ago, and it was none other than our bakery's delivery person. As you can guess, it was his last delivery. Mark and I have moved to New York since then. We don't ever intend to open a bakery, nor do deliveries ever in our lives. I was working at a local library part-time as I was pursuing my degree. My shifts were mostly in the evening, which suited my schedule. The job was quite relaxed, mostly involving book sorting or assisting visitors. The library had a strict closing time of 9 p.m., clearly mentioned on their website for all to see. However, one evening, around 8:40 p.m., I received a request for a book delivery. I was hesitant, but decided to deliver the book on my way home. I found the book, packed it, locked up the library, and set off. As I started driving towards the address, I noticed a van trailing behind me. I'm naturally a bit jumpy, so I tried to dismiss it as a coincidence. After a while, the van disappeared from my rearview mirror, and I breathed a sigh of relief, thinking I was just being paranoid. About halfway into the drive, I found myself on a secluded road. My radio started emitting static, a clear sign of poor network coverage in the area. I drove on, but there were no houses in sight. I checked my GPS for the house, but it was unresponsive due to the network issue. I decided to drive a bit further to find the house. However, I ended up at a dead end with an open field on one side. I realized then that I had been duped. I won't lie, I was terrified. Panic set in. I quickly turned my car around and sped towards the main road. As I did, I saw the same van parked nearby, as if it had been waiting for me. I swerved my car and floored the accelerator. The van started following me, maintaining a dangerously close distance. I didn't waste any time, and drove as fast as I could until I reached a familiar area. I pretended to park my car, hoping the van would leave, but it didn't. It drove a bit further and parked in front of a house. I knew I had to think quickly. Despite the late hour, I called a friend and explained the situation. He advised me not to go home, but to head to the nearest police station. I followed his advice. After parking at the police station for about 15 minutes, the van finally drove off. Feeling safe, I rushed into the police station and reported the incident. They couldn't trace the van, but ensured I got home safely. I quit the job the next day. It's been a year, but I still wonder who they were and what they wanted. I'm a 25-year-old woman pursuing a PhD at Harvard University. Living in a foreign country without a steady income can be quite daunting. So, to supplement my income, I started working part-time as a Lyft driver. However, I only drove on Fridays and Saturdays. I would pick up passengers from their location and drop them off at their desired destination. The job was straightforward and it definitely helped me financially. On a good day, I could make an extra $500. One peculiar day, just like any other, I accepted a ride request and headed towards the pickup location. However, as I was driving, I noticed that the pickup location was not a residential area, but a public park. It was on a Friday night at 11 p.m. Who would even be at a park at this hour? I thought to myself and called the passenger. "Are you sure you've set the correct pickup location?" I asked. They replied yes. So I further asked whether they were at a park, but the person abruptly ended the call. Quite puzzled, I zoomed in on the location, but indeed there was nothing but a park. Literally nothing, but a single open space. At that moment, I really didn't know what to do. However, I had just made $50 that night since I hadn't worked during the day. I was disparate to earn. So, I drove to the location reluctantly. When I reached there, I wasn't surprised. There was an old playground in the middle of trees and bushes. There were no cars, people, or even lights. Nevertheless, I didn't think too much. I simply texted the passenger that I was there. 10 minutes passed by, but there was no reply. Just when I was thinking of leaving and started my car, my phone beeped. "I can see you. Come inside," it read. That was a very cold response, which made me think. On most days, people living in apartments ask me to come to their building entrance. And trust me, that's understandable, because they live on the 16th or 20th floor. But in that case, I was legit outside a park that too looked quite deserted. I knew that there was no way that I would leave my car in the darkness and walk towards that park on my own. However, a part of me just wanted to check things out. So, I texted the person, "Okay, I'm heading out." Then I got out, sneakily sat inside the back seat of the car and carefully locked it without making noise. After a minute, two women approached. It was dark, yet I could see two figures walking towards the car. When they came close, one of them tried to unlock the door. My heart leapt out of my chest and adrenaline flooded inside. I quickly jumped to the front seat and pounded on the horn. I was seriously horrified. I reversed my car at full speed and ran away. I couldn't see the faces of those women. And when I reported about them to Lyft, turns out they had already deleted their profiles. After a few days, I told this same story to my friend at university. She asked for more details, and I showed her the location on the map. And that's when I got to know that the deserted park was Franklin Park. Look it up on Google, and you'll know what I'm talking about. I still wonder, what would have happened had I gotten out of the car? Thank God I made the wise decision. By the way, I still work at Lyft, but I never accept a ride without confirming the location. It's always better to be safe than sorry.